Welcome to the Lost and Found podcast. I'm your host, Amanda. Join me each week as I rediscover my life's meaning, my passions, and my place in this world after leaving behind the only dream I've ever known. If you are dealing with self-loss, identity changes, career transitions, or you are still trying to figure out your life's purpose, then you're not alone. Join me. Wanderers are always welcome. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Lost and Found podcast. This is your host, Amanda. So happy to be here. So happy to be chatting with you once again today. Today is a Wanderer Wisdom episode. So this is a What Would a Wanderer Do segment of our show. I have started doing listener Q&As once a week to try and engage with everyone a bit more, give you a little bit more access directly to me. If you have questions either about myself or the show or your own personal self-development journey, if there's anything I can do to help you, I always encourage listeners and fans of the show to write in, ask your questions. You can send it to me directly through a DM on social media. We're on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and if you would rather email me, you can always do that via email at hello@podcastforthelost.com. And if you're worried about me knowing who you are or saying your name on accident on the show, I promise I never do. Your identity is always safe with me, and I don't reveal where the question comes from. I bring it up on the show and then I answer it. So if you would rather do it anonymously, there will be a link inside the description or the show notes of this episode, and you can click on that link for the anonymous message. But without further ado, we'll hop right on in here. We like to keep the Wanderer episodes pretty short and sweet, direct to the point, and get straight to your questions, so that way I can get as many of your questions answered as possible per episode. So happy to have you guys back. Let's get into it. The very first person submitted a question, and it says, what do you do on the days when you don't feel empowered, and how do you find your way back to yourself? Excellent question. I'm sure, as a lot of you have seen, it's very hard on social media or in life to maintain like a motivation, especially if you're on like a fitness journey. A lot of fitness content creators talk a lot about its discipline and consistency. It's your mindset about how you choose to attack your goal that's going to help sustain you, because motivation waxes and wanes and changes throughout your journey, no matter what, especially if you're going through a different phase in your life in the pursuit of this goal. And so one of the things that helps me feel more empowered, or I feel less empowered than normal, I try and find ways to boost my confidence. Empowerment typically for me has come from action, becoming self-reliant and starting a podcast and created something completely on my own from scratch by myself has been very eye-opening, but very empowering, because it gave me a platform to use my voice. And so the consistency that I have attempted to maintain of releasing at least one episode a week. Now, have I done that perfectly? No, but it's a nice goal to have, right? Just to keep showing up for myself by consistently doing little things every day that may not necessarily be related to my actual end goal of producing this show full time. It's the little things and little ways that I show up for myself each and every day that help me feel more empowered to complete a goal, to complete a task, to feel like I'm on the right path. So anything that I can do to enable my best self to exist, that has helped me feel empowered. So if that means eating better, getting into a better sleep routine, working out, actually going to physical therapy for my leg when I was injured, spending time with family when I need an opportunity for a break. There's a lot of times where I'm working full-time still during the day and podcasting by night and editing by night and reviewing guests, finding guests, booking guests, doing research before each episode, writing the outlines of each episode, sending them to the guests to make sure that it works for them. Trying to do all of that is super, super overwhelming. And so you can get burnt out really quickly when you have a lot going on and you're trying to grow a show from scratch and all these kinds of things. The way lately that I make sure that I feel empowered is by recognizing the phase of life that I'm in. So I'm in a really busy season where I'm trying to do two things at once, work in two places at once. And so when I'm having split brain issues or anxiety inducing issues, I acknowledge the phase that I'm in. I take a step back and take a break mentally, either go on a walk, go find my family, go to dinner, take an actual step away from the computer, not stare at the thing that's causing me anxiety, which is how much work I have left to do to finish things. When I feel low, I start looking at my diet. It's like, okay, am I sluggish? Am I tired? Am I sleepy? Am I whatever? So if that's the case, like I reevaluate and adjust inside of my personal physical health. What are my supplements? Are they low? Do I need to refill them? If I'm physically not doing well, do I go get a massage? Do I go to the chiropractor? What do I do to check in on that? If I can't lift weights today, can I do a Pilates routine? Can I do a Peloton cycling ride, like something? So I adjust that way. And when I enable ideal Amanda to exist, or future Amanda to exist, or what would future Amanda do? That's usually kind of the mindset I think about if I'm starting to feel less empowered. I channel her and go, okay, I'm at this kind of uneasy phase. I'm not feeling like myself, something's off, or I'm just having kind of trouble. And I channel her in, I bring her in and do what she would do. She would acknowledge where she's at. She would ask for help when she needs it. She would take breaks when she needs it. And she would maintain her physical overall health. So that way she can sustain the effort that it's going to take to reach this goal. And that helps me feel empowered when I'm feeling really low on certain days. Because a lot of the empowerment right now for me comes from action. Taking action, no matter how small of a step it actually looks like in the grand scheme of things, that step gets me one step closer. It still helps me move my dream forward. So that helps me feel empowered. If there's ever a day where I actually think I'm going to give up or I want to give up, I don't let that creep in, right? I do a small thing. Even if I don't have time to film and edit today, but I'm going to post one thing on social media. Great. I did that one thing. I got one step closer today. And that's what I use. I don't really worry about tracking my progress against other people. The only time I track my progress against other people is if I'm trying to figure out how to solve a problem for my own show or my own projects, and use that to try and get information about how to solve what's wrong with my situation, not necessarily to go, wow, I suck, I'm this far behind, or I'm not using this type of technology, or I'm not selling this many products, or I'm not at 800 episodes instead of just 90 whatever I'm at now, 92 or 93. I avoid comparison. I acknowledge where I'm at, and I take care of my physical health to feel more empowered. All right. Question number 2. What's something you've had to relearn even though you thought you already healed it? Okay. Something that I've had to relearn even though I already healed it. That's a really good one. The most recent moment where I realized I had not healed from something was a few episodes ago when I was still living in Nashville, and I wrote an episode all about what happened when I broke my leg. And in April, I struggled really badly with my mental health because I put a lot of my identity and my lifestyle hangs on physical fitness and wellness. When I was unable to work out, I had a really hard time with accepting that. And I had all these crazy negative self-talk problems, and I spiraled out really quickly thinking about, oh my God, if I can't move, I'm going to get fat, I'm going to gain all this weight, or I'm going to lose all this weight. And that's not what I was trying to do. Like, what if I don't have an ass anymore? What if nobody likes me anymore? What if all my friends at the gym don't want to hang out anymore because I'm not there often enough, or I missed class for 6 weeks, or all these really silly, crazy, negative thoughts. Like, Amanda, you're not going to wither away or sink into a brand new body in only 6 weeks. Now, are you going to lose some muscle mass in your lower leg because you can't use your calf muscles and you're not bending your ankle correctly? Yeah, of course. But with physical therapy, you're going to be fine. You're going to build all that back up. So I'd deep dive into those negative thoughts in that episode. And I'll link that here if you want to go back and hear the full story about what happened to me, how I handled all that negative mental health spike, and what did I do and what did I learn from that process of breaking my leg and eventually healing. I just recently finished my physical therapy sessions for my leg. And so I am going to be full-time back to the gym this month. And so I'm very grateful that I've healed quickly in the 2.5, kind of almost 3 months. Yeah. since the initial injury. So things are going well, but that was a slow process, right? The months went by quickly. The weeks weren't that long, but the days were dragging, right? When I initially got hurt. It's like one of the craziest feelings when you think you're moving forward and you pride yourself on all the progress and momentum you've created in your life since your last like major change or your last significant pivot, and then to physically be to be physically stopped, right? This is no longer not only a metaphorical obstacle that I'm trying to overcome, it's now a physical obstacle of being stuck, laying down, taking rest, recovering, being stationary. And to a person whose greatest fear lately has been, how do I get unstuck? How do I get away from ever feeling stuck ever again? That was really, really hard for me. So I think something that I've had to relearn, even though I thought I already had it healed, is that I don't think your subconscious thoughts and your negative self-talk, it doesn't just go away overnight, right? That is a constant daily practice that you have to enable for your brain. You need to rewire or reconstruct the thoughts that you feed yourself, because your body is listening, your brain is listening. And if you tell yourself, I'm worthless, I'm lazy, I'm pathetic, I'm never going to get better, I'm never going to get out of this hole, I'm never going to get unstuck, I'm, lost forever, I'm a waste of space, your brain is going to start to believe that. And so if it thinks it's dying, if it thinks it has no purpose, it'll stop functioning. It'll stop encouraging your body to function. It'll let your cells die. It will let you wither away. And so you cannot, I thought I had progressed well enough because she left her big national security job. She took a risk and moved to another state. She moved closer to her family. Ooh, she got a new job in a completely different industry. Ooh, look at her starting a podcast. Look at her learning to grow. Like, wow, she's really pivoting. She's really growing. She's really moving forward. Yada, yada, yada. And then smack, a problem hits me. And what does the girl who claims that she knows how to pivot or is learning how to pivot do? She allows herself to feel stuck, right? She allows herself to go back into that negative mindset. And that's the tricky part, right? I thought I was doing so well, and I was physically, but it was clear to me that I have to look, if I'm going to solve a problem and change my life, I can't look at it from only one direction of the human aspect of who I am. I can't only fix my physical attributes or my physical life to reach my goal. I need to focus on my mental attributes as well. Physical, emotional, mental, in order to become the person I want to become. I can't negate one or forget about one and just put everything else into overdrive and hoping that by putting more effort into my physical capabilities, it'll outweigh my mental capabilities. And that's just not true. I need them both. And so that's something that I've learned, is that it doesn't matter how physically capable I feel or am. If I'm mentally stuck, I won't be able to move forward. So it doesn't really matter. So when I lost the physical ability to move, metaphorically speaking, move forward, get myself unstuck. If I physically can't get unstuck, then mentally I need to be able to remind myself to build that power up, to dig into your strength reserves and stay positive, to keep me focused on the mission. Because if I ever let that drop off, then I really will be stuck. And that's not where we want to be. So I think that's something I've had to learn over time, that even despite starting this podcast and how much of a emotional, creative, and mental benefit it's given me to learn something new, release all my feelings, share things, it's not enough. So I still have to take care of myself physically and vice versa. Okay. All right. What is something that you used to define yourself by that no longer feels true? Well, my goodness. What is something I used to define myself by that no longer feels true? All kinds of things, right? There's been versions of Amanda throughout my life, right? So when I was really little, I was dancing and singing all the time. I don't remember how young I was when I gave up professional dance classes. I want to say maybe 10 or 11, I think. I really hope that it wasn't younger than that, because I was really good. And I do remember my mom telling me that I was good, and she begged me to stay in it. And I don't think I was interested. I think I was trying to go into like organized sports and stuff instead. And not that organized sports aren't important or good for you growing up. All of that's great socialization for kids. But I've noticed as an adult how much dancing means to me and how much of a creative outlet it is for me and how much freedom I feel when doing it and how much fun I have when I'm out dancing with friends and stuff. But I stopped identifying, I guess, as a dancer, quote unquote, until from 11 years old-ish through probably undergrad, at least college at Ole Miss. And then after that, I would go out clubbing or go places when I was living in DC with different friends. And there was a woman I used to work with who was a salsa, bachata, merengue teacher. And she did that on the side while we were both working at the FBI together as contractors. And she eventually switched and does that full time now. She would take me out dancing with her dance troupe friends at different clubs around DC, and that was so fun. But I always felt a little out of place because I didn't identify as a good dancer anymore because I had stopped taking classes. And so there have been times in my life where things like that have happened. So from the very beginning of this podcast, I talked about how I used to identify with my career as an intelligence analyst. I had a very strong aptitude for that particular field. And I knew that I could be really good at it, if not better than where I was when I left, which was a really clear trajectory. And now that I'm outside of that and I'm not actually applying much analytical skills to anything that I do lately, I don't feel connected to that identity anymore. It's been over 3 years since I left that job, and I feel less and less like that Amanda. I know that if you threw me back into the service, not that I want to do that right now, but if I were to go right back in, other than learning the new software that we would be using, like the skills are still there. I know they are. You don't study something like that for 10 years and just completely forget how to do it or completely forget how to be objective when you're working criminal cases. But it's weird, right? Like I have memories of her. I remember those experiences in my mind. I can envision them right now. I remember what it was like to be and work and live in DC, and I remember what it was like to be and work and live in Philadelphia. But when I think about it, she's a different person. So it's almost like when I go back into that memory, it's like I'm having that out of body experience. Like I'm not envisioning the memory where I'm the one looking at it and watching it happen. Does that make sense? This probably sounds crazy, but that's how far removed I am from who she was and what she did for a living and what she represented. I no longer envision myself in that memory. I'm just watching that memory exist, play out. So I guess I used to define myself pretty strongly by my career. And I don't do that anymore. I've let that go. I'm more than a producer. I'm more than a podcaster. I'm more than an intelligence analyst. I'm more than just a cog in the societal wheel. I'm a voice. I have a spirit. I have a soul. I have so much power, so much more power now by embracing anything and everything that can come my way. By not being afraid of my path anymore, I'm no longer defined by whatever guardrails there are on this new one, I guess. I'm not as worried about what might happen. I don't know if that fully answers your question or not, but I hope so. All right, let me do one last one. If your younger self could hear this podcast today, what do you think she'd say? Oh my God. Okay. It's an excellent question. I think she'd say a lot of things, depending on which younger version of Amanda you're talking to, right? If it's little girl Amanda, she would probably think it's really cool that we're on TV, but we're not, right? Obviously, we're only on a podcast, but she would envision it as that, like, whole wow, like we look at us being so talented, we made it somewhere. Ole Miss Amanda would be like, no, we didn't. Pointless. Like, why would you ever risk your career in national security to go online and go be public when like 20-year-old me knew better than that and like knew you can never do that. If this is the career path we're on, what current day Amanda is doing is wrong. Like something must have gone wrong for her to break this vow. But I think even when I was at my lowest, I think Amanda in 2021 would cry out of joy. I think she'd be relieved, honestly, to know that what she was feeling back in 2021 was not an illusion and that she wasn't crazy for feeling so depressed and sad and upset and that her fear and her sadness was serving a purpose. And I think she would be really proud to know that she channeled that darkness into something that could bring light. Whether that was helpful only to me or if it ended up being helpful for others, finding a way to process your, for lack of a better term, honestly, your emotional heaviness, finding a way to process those thoughts and not allowing them to consume you, I think she'd be very grateful. I think she'd be relieved, and I think she would be proud of me for at least trying something, anything, to dig her out of that hole. I think Amanda in 2021 was not thinking about it this way, but if she heard the podcast, I think she would be extremely relieved to know that the person who did save her and get her out of there was herself. There's really nobody better suited to change your life than yourself. There's nobody better suited to save you than the person you wish you had been back then. Right? So the fact that I'm doing something to try and become my future self would be something that I think younger Amanda would be very proud of. But that's all we've got for today. I hope this episode has helped you and given you some more insight into who I am and why I started this show and what it is that we're trying to promote here and the movement we're trying to create with the Lost and Found project in and of itself. This podcast really means a lot to me. So anytime you guys share it, you repost from Instagram or TikTok, you share the show with your friends, you leave comments, you leave 5 stars, you let me know what you think of each episode. It really means a lot to me. All of the engagement is what helps us spread the word about the show. And so every time we can reach more people, we can, hopefully help others feel less alone in this world. Kind of like what I've talked about before, we may not all know the answers, but sometimes if we share maps and compare notes, we just might get to where we need to go. So I appreciate every single one of you, every single wanderer that's out there that has contributed to this show and subscribed, left a review. It means the world to me. So I appreciate it very much. You know how to find me. We're on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Everything is under Podcast for the Lost. You can also always reach out to me, hello@podcastforthelost.com via email, and be sure to tune in on Friday, July 10th. We've got a brand new episode coming out with a brand new guest. We are talking to Jeremy Horn all about the Winnie app and how he helps people from all around the world capture messages and memories and share them with their loved ones and their friends so that way they can maintain and improve their social relationships for a lifetime. So he's a really great inventor and business owner, and I'm so glad that we'll get to hear all about his content. So be sure to check that out and let me know what you think of the show, and I will catch up with you next week. And remember, wanderers are always welcome.